Pioneers are explorers. Pioneers are innovators. Pioneers are leaders. We are Marietta College. We are pioneers. Find out how you can become a PIO at www.marietta.edu.
Coming up today on NewsCenter 15, federal aid coming to following hurricane recovery.
And rescue and recovery attempts following a deadly plane crash.
We'll have more of these stories and more on NewsCenter 15. Starts now. Good afternoon and welcome to Monday's edition of NewsCenter 15. I'm Abby Scott.
And I'm Caleb Bland.
Topping our news this afternoon. U.S. officials are vowing to use a massive amount of federal aid in response to Hurricane Ian and its aftermath in Florida and the Carolinas. The storm, which made landfall Tuesday as a massive Category 4 storm, has accounted for at least 54 deaths, with 47 of those coming in the state of Florida. Officials are still warning Florida residents that flooding could increase in the coming days as the water that has fallen has nowhere to go, with waterways already overflown.
Russia has begun using suicide drones in the Ukrainian president's hometown, which come as a response to Ukrainian counter-offensive that has left the Kremlin embarrassed. The counteroffensive that has recently included Ukraine taking back the eastern Ukrainian city of Liman, which Russia has used as a transport and logistics hub. In response to this, the Kremlin has tried to escalate tensions by illegally annexing 4 Ukrainian regions. World leaders, including the Pope, have spoken out against these actions, along with recent Russian nuclear threats against the West.
Let's take a quick look at the current conditions.
Here to provide a first look at the weather is Cole Longcore,
otherwise known as Landon Santini. Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Caleb. Well, as you can see on our first newscast of the semester, we're going to be experiencing some very confusing fall conditions. Today is going to be a relatively cool day with partly cloudy conditions and expected high of 56. Today we're going to be experiencing relatively good air quality and some very moderate UV temperatures and very low pollen count. I'll explain how that's possible in a little while. The winds are going to be running around the south-southwest at about 5 miles per hour today. There's going to be a humidity of roughly 84%, so we're not going to have to be dealing with any kind of major precipitation throughout a good chunk of the week, so that'll be good to know. We did have a bit of a rainfall over this past weekend, but we're going to be getting a bit of a break from that as we go through the rest of the week. But that also is going to lead to some rather confusing weather patterns. We'll talk a little bit more about that in detail when I return later on in the program for the 5-day forecast, and I'm looking forward to bringing you all that. But until then, back to you guys at the desk.
Police firing tear gas after an Indonesian soccer match in an attempt to stop violence, triggering a panic of fans making an exit.
6 bodies have been found, recovered 1 month after a float plane carrying 10 people crashed into a Mutiny Bay in Washington last month. Excuse me. The plane crashed shortly after 3 p.m. on September 4th. The day after the crash, the USCG said it suspended the search for the 9 remaining passengers after it searched over 2,100 nocturnal miles. 5 of the victims in the incident have been identified.
Coming up, police. Coming up, police shoot and kill a kidnapping victim.
And Jeffrey Dahmer's glasses are for sale. We'll be back after this.
Hey, this is Kevin Love from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Right now, many of us feel anxious. Mindfulness can help you ease those feelings. My nonprofit is partnering with Headspace to offer free content to help you stress less. Head to kevinlovefund.org/headspace.
Here's to the straggly ones, the first ones. But hey, I look good with this ones. The black, brown, red, and gray ones. The itchy ones. The ones grown by Dad. The ones grown for Dad. The I nearly didn't do it this year ones, and the absolutely filthy ones. They all raise awareness, raise funds, start conversations, and save lives. Because whatever you grow will save a bro. Learn more at Movember.com.
Iran's Supreme Leader breaks silence on protests, blames the U.S. Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has responded publicly to the biggest protests in Iran in years, breaking weeks of silence to condemn the rioting and accused protests of being planned by the U.S. and Israel. Khamenei described the death of 22-year-old Mahsa Amini and the custody of Iran's morality police, which set off the nationwide protest, as a bad incident that left us heartbroken. However, he sharply condemned the protests as a foreign plot to destabilize Iran, echoing authorities' previous comments. Demonstrations have continued in Tehran and far-flung provinces, even as authorities have restricted the internet access to the internet to the outside world and blocked social media apps.
Congressional districts that a federal court panel said were unconstitutional because they dilute representation for black voters in Alabama are nevertheless being used for the November election after the U.S. Supreme Court allowed them. The High Court hears arguments in the case on Tuesday. The packing of black voters into just one of the state's 7 congressional districts leaves many of them without a voice and gives Republicans one more seat than they should have, based on the state's demographics and voting patterns. Gerrymandering has reduced the influence of black voters for decades in a state that is synonymous with civil rights movement.
With a new Netflix series out about Jeffrey Dahmer, fans are going crazy after his prison specs are up for sale. Dahmer's glasses are being sold by a Canadian collector who says he is willing to part with them, but only for a hefty price. The glasses worn by Jeffrey Dahmer, Milwaukee's cannibal serial killer in the 1900s, are being sold for $150,000. Other items of Dahmer's for sale can be found in the Vancouver-based Cult Collectibles website.
Early last week, an unarmed 15-year-old Savannah Gaziano was shot and killed while trying to escape her kidnapper, 45-year-old Anthony Graziano. Shot and killed his wife and took their daughter. Throughout the chase, Graziano repeatedly fired through the Riverview window and was killed in the shootout. Savannah fled from the truck, running toward police when they opened fire and killed her. The The San Bernardino Sheriff's Department is now under investigation at this time.
Coming up next, cows adopt a wild boar piglet.
We'll also get the latest news from Hollywood.
And it looks like the allergies are going to be flying as we continue on in our first week of newscasts, but we'll talk more about that in detail when I return for the extended weather forecast. Stay tuned.
Where are we?
Okay, sorry about that.
We are at Marietta College.
This is where we live at Marietta College.
When kids need medical care, they face life-changing experiences. They miss out on the things that make being a kid fun. Starlight Children's Foundation programs entertain and inspire hospitalized kids. Learn more at starlight.org.
Marietta, a place some people call home.
A place of athletes.
A place of discovery.
A place for the future.
Your plan.
Your future.
Go Pios.
Trevor Noah is leaving The Daily Show after hosting for 7 years. Noah surprised his audience on Thursday after talking about his gratitude to being on the show and taking over for Jon Stewart. Neither Noah or Comedy Central confirmed when Noah will be leaving the show, although the network expressed their gratefulness of his time on the show and are excited for the next chapter.
This Thanksgiving, your pumpkin pie might have a lower carbon footprint. The Central Illinois Farms that supplies most of the world's canned pumpkins are adapting new techniques to reduce emissions, attract natural pollinators, and improve soil health. This effort is backed by Libby's, the canned food company, that processes 1,200,000 tons of pumpkin each year.
Heard the news? A wild boar piglet is adopted by cows. The herd in question was in the central German community of Brovender. Farmer Frederick Stapel told the DPA news agency that he first spotted the pig 3 weeks ago. The piglet, nicknamed Frida, most likely got separated from its group while crossing a nearby river, Staple Plains, on bringing the piglet in with the mother cows in winter, and says to leave it alone now would be unfair. Today in entertainment news, movie and music news now, including a former Beatle and a former basketball star.
Here.
Well, thank you very much. Today, in regards to that former Beatle, Ringo Starr postponed weekend shows with his all-star band in Michigan and Minnesota due to illness. The venues announced on the news on social media today, stating that the music legend is sick but does not have COVID. In other news, Doug Jones is back as Billy Butcherson in Hocus Pocus 2, now streaming on Disney+. Jones says that he's loved talking with fans of the 1993 original film and is having a ball doing a movie now in this day and age that he can still do. Lastly, here's an odd musical pairing, Maroon 5 and Shaquille O'Neal. It was the finale of a star-studded celebrity gala for the Shaquille O'Neal Foundation in Las Vegas, which raised more than $3.2 million for the Boys and Girls Club and communities and schools in the Las Vegas and Atlanta areas. With today's Hollywood Minute, I'm Landon Santini. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks for the look at Hollywood, Landon.
We'll head to Cole now for a look at the extended weather forecast.
Well, just like my microphone here, we're losing some precipitation that we've got over the weekend. We had a relatively big rainstorm this past Saturday, but we've long since been cleared of it. As you can see at our world map, the rainstorm has passed the tri-state area that we live in and has gone past the states of Virginia into Delaware and into the Pacific Ocean. So it's no longer our problem. And as you can see here in our lovely Mid-Ohio Valley area, we've got a very, very clear, cool, crisp day today. Lovely autumn day. But it looks like we're going to be dealing with some weird temperature fluctuations as we continue on throughout the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we'll have an expected high of 66 with some relatively sunny conditions. Continuing on through the rest of the week, the temperatures will start to climb with a high of 71. Continuing on into Thursday, we'll climb slightly a bit more with a high of 72 and some less sunny but more cloudy conditions. As we start inching towards the weekend, that'll finally start tapering off a little bit with an expected high of 60, low 42, and some partly cloudy conditions. And then continuing on into Saturday, as we take a break from our studies, with an expected high of 54 and a low of 37. So calendar-wise, we are in the midst of autumn right now, but this week it's going to be a little bit confusing in that regard. So if you've got allergies, make sure you've got any medications, any tissues ready handy. And you could probably hold off on wearing the fall sweaters and fall fashions for at least one more week and just take a lovely stroll out in the picturesque, serenity, beautiful landscape that is Marietta College. We'll talk a little bit more about what you can do later on in the week when I come back for the end of the program. I'm just really excited to be back at the beginning of this new season. I'm sure you all too. But right now, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Landon. When we come back, Hunter Withrow will have the latest in the world of sports.
Stay with us.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course.
He's reaching, but he pushes it away. He's approaching a plate of iced cookies. He blows right by him.
Oh, the fridge.
Looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle.
Now he's just got to get out of there.
Look what dropped from the sky.
Don't do it, Dennis. That's the way you execute a Midnight Snack Run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Marietta College, home of the pioneers. A small town on the Ohio River with a tight-knit community and tons of opportunity. Find a home here at Marietta College. Bring forth a pioneer.
What are we gonna do? Ta-da! All right. Come on, every pony. Woo!
Liza, I just love how ponies are better together.
Me too. You know, same thing with Girl Scouts, Kamiko. Every day they make each other shine a little brighter.
And they make the world around them a better place. So join Girl Scouts.
And be a part of the friendship and magic.
And now we're back with Marissa Hunter Withrow for a look at the sports.
Oh, I'll give you right now. Boston Celtics newly promoted head coach Joe Mazzulla made his debut with a preseason victory over the Charlotte Hornets, ending the game with a score of 134-93. This win comes just 10 days after previous Celtics head coach Ime Udoka was suspended and less than a week after the team reported to training camp. The new coach went noticed by the players, with guard Malcolm Brogdon stating Mazzulla seemed composed and made good decisions. Hall of Fame quarterback Terry Bradshaw has been treated for 2 forms of cancer in the past year. Late last year, Bradshaw was treated for bladder cancer at Yale University Medical Center. The 74-year-old found a tumor in his neck this past year, which turned out to be a rare form of malignant skin cancer called a Merkel cell tumor. For this, Bradshaw was treated at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. Bradshaw says he is cancer-free and feeling great. That's all for sports. I'm Hunter Withrow. Back to you guys at the desk.
Well, let's have a little sneak peek at the weather again.
Yeah. All right, it's more like a recap, but thank you very much. Well, basically, this past Saturday, we had a very big rainstorm well, not really a storm, but we had a big downpour of rain that day. But as we've come into the beginning of the work week, that rain has basically left the country. So we're now going to be experiencing some very warm and calm temperatures throughout the rest of the week, but it's going to be increasing throughout the middle of the week to the upper 70s, to the point that we might maybe get one last taste of summer in the first full week of October before it starts cooling down again to the more regular autumn temperatures as we get to the next weekend. I tell you what, much like the weather patterns, this week is proving to be very confusing. I mean, it's warm when it's supposed to be cool. It's mass hysteria.
Well, thank you for the weather, Cole. Not Cole, sorry, Landon.
Cole is Landon, Melissa's Hunter, mass hysteria.
Anyways, thanks for joining us for noon 30 and see us again at 6. This is News Center 15. I'm Abby Scott.
And I'm Caleb Bland.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
It feels weird with that